So Tara Slone, host of Rogers Hometown Hockey, is in Red Deer in the midst of a busy day, Kwame, and helping us out. And I really wanted Tara to be a part of our conversation. And I think you know Tara from her business here with hockey, but also as a lead singer of Joy Drop, Juno nominee, and was in the acting business. You also have a quarter century in the entertainment field, Kwame. Best known maybe as film director of Soul on Ice, but certainly a tremendous radio personality and a career all around the business. And it's been a watershed couple of weeks. I'll begin with you. What do you think?
Yeah, so what I'm thinking so far is about the children. We're in a very important moment in the world of hockey and the growth of hockey. And I think it's very important that the children know that they have a safe space in the world of hockey. And we provide that for them so that, you know, they have the ability to know that if something happens to them, they can speak up. Akeem Alou, he's going to go down in history as one of those people who helped change the game of hockey and make it progress to a better and safer place.
Tara?
That's definitely been on my mind too, Ron. As you know, later this evening, I'm going to be speaking at a gala fundraiser for girls hockey. And so what I've been thinking a lot about is, you know, the gratitude that I feel for getting to a certain point as a woman in my career in hockey. And for those of us, the responsibility that we all hold to now lift people up around us. I think it just can't be relegated to us and them at this point. This isn't their fight. This has to be all of our work that we do together. So, but for sure, it has to start at the grassroots level. That's where the conversation needs to go, and it has to include parents and organizations. So, I mean, this is a really big movement, and there's a lot of opportunity for this to happen very quickly.
And I think what she said is correct. It's about including everyone. And you and I have talked about this a lot. You know, there's a big emphasis on diversity and inclusion. And I'd like to say that the game of hockey has always been diverse. It's not as diverse as we'd like it to be, but it's always been diverse. What it hasn't been is inclusive. And I think we are at a point where we have to find a way to make the game more inclusive, because the more inclusive the game is, the more opinions you have and different perspectives you will have about the game of hockey, and you can only be better for that. And, you know, simply putting, you know, it's hard to just say, you know, I'm going to talk about issues in the Black community or the Indigenous community or in the LGBTQ community without having those people represented at the table. So we have to do a better job of making sure the game is more inclusive and it will become more diverse as well.
Tara, you're such a champion of that. So I'll tell you a little story from my point of view that will probably lead you first, and then Kwame. When we did an interview a year ago, Kwame and I, after Devontae Smith-Pelly had to deal with racial agitation, and it was a nice conversation. But I said to Kwame, you know, I don't see you as Black. I don't see Tara as a woman. And then I realized there's your white male privilege. You know what, Ron? You don't have to see that because you don't need to see that. And you told me, Kwame, an amazing story about when the kids throw back to Hockey Night in Canada. As a general rule, they're often all white. And if they're not all white, the whites often have the speaking part. And it's the same with our Rogers Hometown Hockey. We're so proud of being inclusive, but how many times do we get people of color to pick the 3 stars? And it was just a real eye-opener that I don't recognize the structural racism or sexism that's going on.
And, you know, it's interesting because it takes me back to when I was a child and I loved hockey from before I even knew myself. My favorite hockey player was Guy Lafleur. And, you know, when we would go outside and play road hockey and everybody's picking their favorite player, I remember this one time I said, I'm Guy Lafleur. And a kid told me I can't be Guy Lafleur because Guy Lafleur is white. And I didn't know that Mike Marsden was out there. I didn't know that Bill Riley was out there. I didn't know that there was a guy by the name of Willie O'Ree or Herb Carnegie that I could say I want to look up to. So I think as an industry, as broadcasters, as sports broadcasters, we have to also do a better job of showing everybody, because once we show everybody, then everybody feels included. You know, we have to have an environment that's also safe, but it's also, it's welcoming. And if we feel welcomed in this environment, you're going to have more fans. So, for example, you know, if you see someone that looks like you know that you can be a part of that as well. And I think that not only does the NHL, the individual teams have to do a better job of being more inclusive, but that the broadcasters have to do a better job of being more inclusive. Either it's in their work practices, or if they're broadcasting or making commercials, or if they're doing, having kids sitting at a table to have the honor to select the 3 stars. Let's change it up a little bit.
Tara.
Well, I liked what you said about recognizing your privilege, and I think that each and every one of us has to take stock of that. I recognize that I am a cisgendered, straight, white woman, and with that comes a certain amount of privilege. But I think for all of us, it's also just about recognizing where our blind spots might lie, and we all have them. And I think we also have to be understanding that other people around us have them. So there's a little bit of compassion that has to come along with this, understanding that we all have some learning to do. But I think we all have to look inside and realize what we're not seeing, and make sure, as Kwame says, make sure that we have these diverse voices around us to help us, and we can't do it without inclusion. We have to have these faces at the table.
As Canadians, we are so proud to say how diverse our country is. We want that to be reflected in the schoolyards. We want that reflected in the work environments. We want that reflected in our sport, our favorite sport. I love the game of hockey. I love watching Sidney Crosby play. I love watching Wayne Simmons play. I love seeing all these guys come together. And I cannot wait for the day when we can truly say that the game is inclusive, because it's only going to make it better.
When Akeem came forward, it was... Go ahead, Tara, please.
Oh, I was just going to say that, if anybody has seen Kim Davis speak, who's the VP of Social Impact with the NHL, the word she uses a lot is intentional. And you have to be intentional about creating these surroundings and creating these situations. So you can't just expect that it's just going to happen. So that's a word I think we all need to keep in mind.
I always like, she says, you can't talk about the culture if you don't be the culture or live the culture. So that's, again, just to be representative, to give someone that hope is one thing. And then I go back to Akeem for a moment. So in the Bill Peters incident, a lot of the emphasis went on the N-word. But I know in talking to friends that even if it hadn't been the N-word, he has been so predisposed to be worried about being a troublemaker, to be angry black man. He has all this to contend with, that had he been criticized for the hip-hop song on the radio with or without that particular focus, although because that's even a divisive, as you know, Kwame, within the community, considered but he would have been destroyed by a person in power, because he's sort of coming up, and that's what you can never read, right? I'll go Kwame first, Tara, but you can never mind the behavior of the person in power. You can never know the victims, upbringing, the quarrels, the inner turmoil of what they've had to deal with in terms of dignity.
And people have to understand that when black males say that there is that stigma of being the angry black man, that is the God's honest truth. I've had that complex in myself for many of years, where there's times where I will just not say anything because I don't want that label upon me. And for Akeem, I remember after my film came out in 2015, he reached out to me and we talked and had great conversations. And he had asked me, can I help him get in touch with other players or other people, because he wants to get back into the league. And I thought to myself, I'm just the film director. I have no connection with the hockey world, but he was so desperate to wanting to get back, and he understood the label that was put on him, and all he wanted to do was have his shot in the league one more time, or whatever it may be. But he had that label, and that label stuck with him. And we all know the industry of hockey is very vindictive. If you are stuck with that label, it lives with you. But I believe that now is a great time for him to say, this is what happened to me. I don't want that to ever happen to any young child, no matter what color, no matter what creed, no matter what you practice. We don't want that to happen to them ever again.
Tara, you want in on that?
Yeah, a couple of things. I do have a lot of questions about who in the league specifically, but who gets labeled as troublemakers. And if you were to talk about sort of ratios, I wonder how many of the people labeled as troublemakers are different, people of color specifically. So that's just something that stands out for me. I don't have the answers, but I suspect that it's more so for people who are racialized.
Well, let me add on to that. I would say that, a lot of the players of color don't speak up. They traditionally have never spoken up. I know guys who played in the 70s and 80s and told me, said, you know, Kwame, back then we just took it. We went home and we might have talked about it with our partners or, you know, our family, but we just took it because we knew that if we did say anything, we'd be labeled as troublemakers. So I'm not going to give you the opportunity to call me a troublemaker. I'm just not going to say anything.
Tara?
Which is just another obstacle. And I just think about, you know, there's a lot of movement towards making hockey more accessible, available, a lot of fundraising for equipment and opportunity like that. And that's fantastic. But you have to look at the way up in hockey, how many other opportunities there are for people to fall off the rungs and to lose them. And so when you look different than everybody in hockey and you feel ostracized, that's just one more opportunity for you to fall off and not continue to be involved on the way up. So I think we have to think of this holistically in terms of how we really do make hockey accessible.
Well, and half the population's female, Tara. So you have a tremendous growth movement going on in the game, and yet you have the dissolution of the CWHL. So it's for me, that's a hard one to reconcile, and you know yourself how hard you have fought to represent both in the music industry and in sports broadcasting. So as you talk to those young women today at the gala, just go on about that.
Just remember, the world is changing. The demographics are changing, and there's nothing you can do about that. It's going to look different. And so if we want the game of hockey to grow, we're going to have to make it more inclusive and more inviting to people that don't just look like the typical hockey player. It's just a fact. If you want this business to stay afloat, you're going to have to make it more welcoming to everybody else. And why wouldn't you want to? Why wouldn't you want to?
Tara, last word?
I want to recognize, you know, I was listening to a podcast with Shireen Ahmed, who's a fantastic voice of people of color and hockey in this country. And she was talking about the burnout that comes with having these types of discussions. Kwame, I know you've been worked to death. And I'm sure, you know, there's kind of a handful of people in this country who have. And we need to do also a better job of weaving in these different voices and faces into the fabric of the media so that this isn't just a one-off for you, Kwame. We're not just going to call you for this discussion.
And, you know, I'm sorry, I know that was the last word, but I wanted to add upon that. It's like, you know, when we have these situations that happen that are negative, we also have to balance that with the positive. So if we talk about, I know for news networks, it's a good story to talk about the young black kid that has been, you know, abused verbally by racial words. But you know what? There's also the counter narrative. I would love for a lot of these different news places to say, hey, Kwame, what are you doing with the league? And I can say to them, well, you know what? During Black History Month, we're going to have a truck that I helped curate with another young lady by the name of Alicia Chin at the National Hockey League. That's going to be here in Toronto. That's going to be in 14, 15 different cities in the United States. And it's got the history of black athletes in hockey. And it's a very positive moment. So we've got to be able to do the balance. As we talk about the negative, we have to also talk about the positive. And I'll say this lastly, my son is 2 years old. You've seen the picture.
Yeah.
He loves
We'll show
hockey.
it online.
And I want him to grow up into an environment of hockey where he feels he is included and he's welcomed and he is loved and that he can do great things if he chooses to do so.
Tara, you throw out a name. I'll throw Dr. Courtney Cito at Queens is another name that I've been listening to a lot this week, who's been fantastic on the discussion. You are always, and so are you, Kwame.
Thank you.
Appreciate it greatly.
Thanks, Ron.